Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Feel to Heal podcast, a mental health podcast to break the negative stigma surrounding all things mental health. In the previous episode, I talked about my personal experience with mental health and the different things that I struggled with growing up. And I did go into a little bit of detail on me starting medication for my anxiety. But in this episode, I do want to go into more detail as to why I decided to start taking anxiety medication, my side effects, the type of anxiety medication that I'm on, and just to give more detail specifically about medication for anxiety and depression because I know it's something that a lot of people are scared to try. There's a lot of questions about medication, and I do want to give my input and my own personal experience because I was also in that same boat of being afraid to try medication and scared of, oh, what are the side effects that I'm going to get? And are they even gonna work? So that's what this episode is gonna be mainly about, is it's gonna be all about anxiety medication and my personal experience. Now, because medication affects people differently, the medication that I'm on may not affect you in a positive way, or it might not make any effect at all. So everyone has to try what works for them, and there's so many types of medication out there, so it's hard to know what works for you until you try medication out yourself because again, everybody is so different. So I do want to make that disclaimer. So I guess I should start with why I decided to take medication and just kind of my thought process and what point I got in my mental health journey to make me decide to start medication. Back in July of 2024, I had I was experiencing a lot of severe anxiety where I couldn't even leave my room because I was so incredibly anxious and just even being awake. I've been doing talk therapy for a few years now, and I've tried all these different skills to help ease my anxiety and depression as best as I can. But at this point, it's gotten out of control where I feel like I can't even live my life, like my day to day life, because it's so intense. So that point, that's when this was summer of 2024. That was when I decided, okay, I need to start medication. So I found out about this website called Hers, not sponsored, by the way, but there's this website called Hers, and they prescribe different types of medication on there. But one of the main types of medication they help prescribe is anxiety and depression medication, so mental health medication. And I looked into it and I was like, okay, this feels more comfortable for me because you don't have to talk to a person like face to face. You can have like you get you fill out this quiz and then this like nurse practitioner or someone like that can prescribe medication looks at your results and then they determine if you're a good candidate for medication and then they just ship it to you. And even the shipping box that it comes in is very discreet if that's something you're worried about. This specific website ships it in a box that's in like a just plain box with no like information about what the box contains. And you get it in like a week or two, and then you can start the medication process, and they explain like how they want you to take it depending on what you answered on the questionnaire. They'll tell you how many milligrams, they'll tell you which type of medication they would like you to try, and then you'll update them, and then you'll decide with the person that prescribed you the medication if you wanna try a different medication, if you wanna keep the one you're on, if you wanna quit it altogether, and then they'll guide you with how you can do that. Because the thing with medication for anxiety and depression, it's once you start it, you don't wanna, like, stop kind of like cold turkey, You don't wanna stop immediately with no slowing down the milligrams because there can be some intense side effects, and so you wanna be released from the medication slowly. So the person who prescribed you the medication can help explain that if you decide you don't wanna be on it anymore. So that's the website that I, went on, and then once I received my medication, which this medication that I'm on is called Zoloft, or it's also called sertraline. There's, like, the generic name. I don't know which one's the generic, but they're both the same thing. Um, so I started Zoloft, and I wrote down the side effects that I had just because I was trying to remember back. And I feel like I should have kept track of it as I was happening because I feel like it would have been more detailed. But again, everybody's experience is different. So don't let my story steer you away or scare you from trying medication. But for myself and how it was to try Zoloft, I will say that the side effects were pretty intense. But it's also hard to know if the side effects that I was getting were the anxiety side, like anxiety, panic attack side effects, or if it was the medication side effects. I couldn't tell because, again, a lot of the times with anxiety, you get physical symptoms, right? Like, you know, stomach issues, headaches, dizziness, all these things. So it's hard to tell if these side effects were related to my anxiety or if it was related to the medication itself. So I can't really 100% be sure what caused these side effects, but I will just say like the stuff that I did struggle with as I was starting the medication. So the first 2 weeks were really rough. I couldn't eat, like the loss of appetite that I had was super intense. I couldn't even take a bite of food. Like I couldn't even look at food. Um, I was super nauseous for those 2 weeks. But again, it could have been my anxiety also because it was really bad, and because I was so anxious, I couldn't even eat. So that could also have played a role in it, I feel like. So, couldn't eat, loss of appetite was intense. I would sweat at night. So a lot of times with Zoloft, I've seen a lot of people say that they tend to sweat a lot at nighttime when you're first starting the medication. So at nighttime, I would wake up and I'd be like dripping sweat, like super hot. And then that would make me more anxious because when I'm like overheating, my anxiety tends to spike. So I would be anxious because I'm like super hot, overheating, sweating. So I would sweat at night. Um, and then I couldn't sleep because I was sweating all night. So then I was running on like very small amount of sleep. So then that made my anxiety also spike up. So you could see how like the side effects of the medication also affects the anxiety, and it like goes vice versa. Um, and then dry mouth was another one I had. So my mouth was super dry. Even drinking water didn't help. So those were like the first 2 weeks. Those were like the most intense side effects that I can remember. And then about 3 weeks later, finally and slowly, it started going away where I could, like, finally eat, and, like, I wasn't sweating at nighttime like the way I was, and I could sleep better. So it took me about I would say it probably took about a month for the side effects to fully go away, but for me, the 2 weeks of first starting the medication, it was really intense, and it was really hard, and I was scared that it wasn't gonna get better, but I kept taking it even though I didn't feel so great because I kept telling myself, "Okay, eventually these side effects will go away, and eventually I'll be able to see, okay, how is my anxiety and depression levels now? Am am I able to now leave my room and not have a panic attack? Am I finally able to get out of my bed and not feel so depressed?" So the way that I got through it was by telling myself that, "Okay, what is my end goal? What am I really looking forward to?" And just telling myself that the outcome is going to be better than the sucky side effects that I was feeling in the moment. And that's how I was able to make it through to the other side where I was like, okay, finally the side effects are gone. Okay, now let me assess how I feel with my anxiety and depression. So about like 6 weeks later, then then I really started feeling a difference. Because it takes a while. The medication isn't going to fix everything. It does take time. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to start really seeing a change, and then for other people, it might take a few months, and maybe to feel the whole full effect of the medication, it might take months. But for me, I started feeling some of the effects starting probably, like, 6 weeks into taking them, where I was finally, like, able to go to work, and I wasn't having panic attacks, where I couldn't even get out of bed, and I was able to sleep, and did it fix my anxiety and depression? No, because medication isn't going to take it completely away. What the medication does, at least in my experience, is it helps reduce the intensity of the anxiety and depression and reduces it to a point where you can at least live your life where it's not affecting you 24/7. Now, do I have moments of of severe anxiety, or do I have moments of depression here and there? Definitely, because again, medication isn't going to be the answer to fixing it all. But it did allow me to at least feel, I would say, probably like 70% better, where maybe in the before I took medication, I was feeling like super, super low and couldn't do anything that I enjoyed, couldn't even eat, sleep, just like the basic necessities that one needs to do. And so taking the medication, I felt better to the point where I can again now go to work and I can hang out with friends and I can leave my room and not like spiral or have a panic attack. So I am very, very grateful that I tried it. And yes, as scary as it was during the process, especially the first 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, did I make a mistake? I'm glad I gave it a chance because where I'm at now, where I've been on it for probably about 8 or 9 months now, I don't know where I would have been if I hadn't started it. It has changed my life, and I don't know if I'm gonna be on it forever. I don't know if eventually I'm gonna, like, slowly decrease the amount of milligrams and then go off of it completely, but at least in this moment, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be on it for still a little while because it has made such a difference. I would totally say to give it a chance. Psychiatrists are the ones who can prescribe medications, so if you don't wanna use the HERS website because you wanna talk to a psychiatrist face to face, then you can, um, get one. Either your primary care doctor can refer you to one, or you can just look them up in your area online, um, and see who's near you. If you have any questions related to medication, let me know. You can either leave them on my Instagram or on the Spotify comments. But I hope that this video helped give you some, guidance and answered some of your questions that you might have had about anxiety. But thank you so much for listening to this episode, and I'll see you next time.